What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another weekly episode of Vagabond Dog Industry Chats. This week, we've got my homeboy, Lee Vemeulen from AlienTrap. How's it going,
Hello.
Lee?
Pretty good.
Yes.
I've been having a good day.
Is it a good day? What defines a
Yeah.
good day?
Actually, not a good day. I think I just talked to you about this like 2 seconds ago. But
Yes.
all I've done today, all I've done today is record promotional content for Modbox, and I don't know. I'm just getting sick of it. I just want to have like a code project again and focus on that. I'd be happy if I just never released the game and I kept rewriting the scripting language in it for the thousandth time.
Okay.
But
So let's rewind a bit. Assuming my audience has never heard of Modbox, what would you describe it as?
well, I started it as I tried Tilt Brush back in 2015 at like PAX or something, and I realized I wanted to make a VR building game because you had like actual hands, you could place stuff, and I wanted to do something like that. But I wanted to the problem with building games in the past is you always needed to do something to make it discrete. Like Minecraft or PCs, you just have little cubes, and that's kind of how you place stuff because it's really hard to place and have a sense of depth on when you're using like a screen. But since in VR you can actually place it, you have a sense of depth, you can use your hands. So I just wanted to make a building game with the central mechanic being if two things are touching in edit mode, they connect as one physics body in play mode. So you can like make these complex contraptions sort of thing. So we started Modbox with that idea, and then it became like we released it when the HTC Vive came out, and it was pretty much like a Rube Goldberg making machine game sort of thing, which is kind of cool. Like you could see complex contraptions that people make on YouTube and such. But I don't know, it's just really not that fun to just check out Rube Goldberg machines. Like it makes for good videos, but it wasn't really that good of a product. Or really that fun. So I think the first version we had that we released on Steam, early access in like 2016. That's all it was kind of good for. Then we added online support to it, but that took us forever. And then we kind of went dark with development, and and I sort of kind of went over what I wanted to do with it. And now Modbox is like this. It's a physics sandbox game where you can sort of create games inside of it, and everything is networked to other players. So it's kind of like a little bit like Unity, but a higher sort of abstraction on top of Unity, where everything is networked and everything you do connects to the other players, and it's very much like a fun sandbox at the same time too. So I'm kind of figuring out if it's more of like a fun VR physics sandbox and also like a good development tool to make unique games.
Interesting. So,
Yeah.
in terms of like how a player makes unique games in there, would you say how like if I guess like Mario Maker is on like this end of the spectrum and like actually opening a game engine is here, like where is
Right.
Modbox?
I think the point is to do stuff like you can make stuff in Modbox that you couldn't easily make in say Unity. So like of course anything you make in Modbox you can make in Unity because it's made in Unity. Just like in the way anything you make in Unity you can make in C++ because Unity is made in C++.
Right.
But the point is that the things you can easily do in Modbox were being insanely hard to do for a small product in Unity. Something like everything you do is connected online and everything you code, like all the code runs on the server and it automatically, there's no server client separation when you're programming, which is one of the hardest parts of network programming. And the other sort of, and we've had a lot of things that we're focusing on that you can build creations that would otherwise be very hard to do, like specifically with destruction and modifying the environment and just making sure that the environment is like everything can be edited, everything can be changed at runtime. You can change like any player can change any item. Just trying to keep the levels dynamic. So it would be very hard to create destructible environments in a Unity game. But in Modbox, that's just automatic. And then everything you do, every creation you have, it automatically works online networked, automatically works in VR. It works locally with 4 other players at the same screen. So those are the sort of things we're trying to focus on in terms of what you can build in Modbox that like the type of creations we want to make and encourage people to make, things that Modbox is very good at. So like I don't want people to make Flappy Bird in Modbox just because you can. Like
But
which
they can.
they can, yeah. But like I don't think that's its strength. Like uh an RTS is not going to be good to make in Modbox and or small sort of casual games, but if you're trying to make like a FPS campaign or like with a heavy action-based thing where you want to work in VR and desktop and you want to have that automatically be online co-op supported, then Modbox would be a fantastic way to do that because of its scripting language, because of its uh, like how we set up the online support, and yeah.
So okay, so I'm hearing that you can make or do anything and everything. This is what I'm getting, is that like this is a game slash system that allows you to do anything you can possibly imagine. Where are its limitations apart from like the you said like it's not easy to make an RTS in Modbox, and it's not suited to it.
Right. I kind of hate marketing Modbox because I think people get the wrong idea of it. Like they think that there's a lot of products that are like Modbox that advertise like that. That like, oh, you can do anything. It's a sandbox. You can do anything. And it's like, I think if anything's a Turing machine, you can just, of course, you can do anything. Like you could make anything in Minecraft if it's a Turing machine by just crappy redstone sort of thing. Right. So I don't like to advertise it as like a one of those sandbox. You can do everything. You can do things that like you can do things that other things can't easily, I guess. And then yeah, and I also don't like viewing it as like a metaverse engine sort of thing or something like that. I think it just I call it like a game creation sandbox, in that you're with your friends online, you're creating games together, and that's a unique experience you can't get out of like for a lot of games.
Right.
So just like the multiplayer aspect of being able to change the world, add in assets, and have everything be very streamlined. That's the unique experience in it. Like there's a lot of things that are like Modbox that just you use Unity to make the levels for, and you put it in, and they say you can do anything and build anything, and that just always rubs me the wrong way.
Right. Okay. So in terms of like how the player goes about the creation process, VR is a strong component.
Well, it started as a VR game, and because it's just really easy to build in 3D in VR. Like you can play stuff easily, and you have a sense of depth and all that. But there's a lot of things that suck in VR. Like say if you're trying to program anything or set up logic, set up scripting. We tried scripting in VR where you're like positioning nodes, but once you do anything complex, it's just impossible to parse like this.
Right. Even like a 2D blueprint system gets messy at a certain level of depth.
And then 3D doesn't add anything because it just makes it harder to parse. Like you read in 2D, so once you add all this shit everywhere, it's not good.
Now
So we do.
In the nest.
Yeah, we do still have a visual scripting system where you're pointing, but that's specifically for like this thing to this thing, not like to this +1 to this calculator node to like this, because it's just a mess. It doesn't. Anyway. So because of that, because there were some things that were better to do on desktop, we started on a desktop mode and a desktop editor, and we tried to do it we tried to keep it very simple, what you could do on it. But then it really opened up like a lot of things that are better on desktop than VR. So like you can play on both. We're trying to make most creations work as well in VR and desktop, which is kind of difficult for some specific things. But editing definitely has strengths in both ways. So like I always program in on desktop, like do the actual visual scripting and placement, even though you can do that in VR, and then I do all the level design in VR.
Right. And are there a lot of, I hate the term, but like products that kind of are designed for the player to go between both spaces?
I don't know. Oh, you mean like more desktop VR?
No, I don't mean like there's I've never really encountered a ton of games or products or anything where it's like you do this part of it in VR and you do this part of it on desktop, even though that is like clearly a very, very good option.
Yeah, there's not enough like asymmetrical sort of VR desktop titles. Like that's the other thing we want to do with Modbox is a lot of creations are like the VR player is this giant Goliath thing, and all the desktop players are these small guys fighting them, and really tried to do a lot of creations that sort of take advantage of the weirdness of a VR player and a desktop player against one another. Like we just added Prop Hunt to the game, which is like a common thing that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of sandbox game has. We just want to see, like, it was kind of like a test of the scripting language if that could do it. But it was really fun because like the VR players had to actually reposition the prop on their hand, so they have to keep their hand perfectly still as the rest of the players, as the desktop players are trying to find them and with guns. Uh, so yeah, like there's a lot of good opportunities for desktop versus VR like gameplay. It's just kind of hard to do for most games because you have to basically make the game twice, like all the input, all the UI, everything. So
Right.
yeah.
Um, you talked about creations and like players just enjoying or playing the creations. Um, obviously, in order for that to happen, right, you need a decent starting base of, for lack of a better term, big brain players who are keen to make things in Modbox, right?
Right.
So that the smooth brains like me can download Modbox and enjoy all of this content that exists in there. What has the process been like? I guess attracting those players over the years of its development. What is that community of creators like now, and how do you think it's going to manifest great creations for people like me who just want to play
Smooth brain.
games? Me smooth brain, yeah.
Uh, yeah, I like part of the reason we kind of went dark with development and didn't really update for I think 2 years we were on Steam Early Access without updates is because I just kept rewriting things. And I just wanted like we had a small I think 20 Modbox players or so that were on the Discord that I gave access to every version to, and
Mm-hmm.
I told them that like whatever you make in Modbox could potentially have to be thrown out because we're constantly changing systems. So like I rewrote the scripting language like 10 times because I would do something and I would see what they would make with it and see sort of weird ideas and that they would have or how it works, and I'd redo it again and again. And so I think that really helped me make it intuitive to beginners like that. Like, but I think that it's really important that it be as like that I make it as powerful as it needs to be, and then kind of focus on sort of tutorials and the steps towards that. But I do think it's like the way that we did the scripting language is that it is very it's very easy to just sort of mess around and get something to work, and everything's very transparent. Like everything is very and it's all editable in the game. There's no like compile process. There's no text and syntax errors. It's always just like you change a value, you can see how that value changes other things, and then because of that, I hope that players will be able to get deeper and deeper into stuff, and then start doing complex scripting and actual complex AI. I hope like my hope is that the way that visual scripting like it works in it is that because people don't have to deal with syntax errors, they'll be able to program for the first time, program really advanced things.
Right.
Because it is like unlike most games like this, it is very close to actual programming. The way that scripting language works, um, you can do really advanced things, but it's not text based, so you still drag and drop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Um, what kinds of experience do you have available without doing any, for lack of a better word, level editing or creating? What kind of experiences do you currently have? What are some great examples?
So over the last month or so, we kind of focused on just making fun creations. So I think we have 5 or 4 that are going with the launch that are just like if someone bought Modbox for $15 and then played and didn't get into any of the edit tools, they would still have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, so it one of them was Prop Hunt. Another one is like I just talked about, and one of them is this single player adventure where you're fighting drones, and um, it's kind of there's a lot of things shown that we try to focus on with the creations that only Modbox does well. So like scripted scenes and AI is really good at Modbox now because of the scripting language, but destructible environments and really a focus on physics and like keeping things dynamic. So all the creations are like that. They're like most of them are like action based and everything you play co-op. But I do think that Modbox at the current state it is, I don't think it the best experience would be for people who want to create right now. Like I think the plan that we have is that hopefully before the end of the year, we can release a free version of Modbox that is play only and still gives has a lot of things to do, like hours and hours of entertainment of trying new things. We're not at that point yet because there's just not many people making stuff in Modbox, but
Right.
I hope that before the end of the year, maybe early next year, we can release a free version of Modbox that we're confident enough just to like purely someone to play, not even to get in edit mode, not even care that you can edit anything, just to try creations.
Right. And
Yeah.
that the content's not quite there yet because the game's not out yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it'll get there pretty quick. I think like I'm really excited for trying to make my own narrative adventures, actually, like
Interesting.
really single player heavy stuff. Because like uh, with the scripting language, how it is, it's really easy to just program an AI to do a cutscene, and then there's lip sync and all the characters, and you can add in text to speech to like quickly make AI say something to the player, and it's it's really easy to set up quick scenes. So I'm really excited to just make single player narrative adventures in it.
Right. And players will be able to start doing that this month?
Yeah, that's all in. Like right now the text to speech is that you have to use another text to speech service, like one of those online things.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to get it integrated into like Modbox. So I want players to be able to be like, uh, they type in what a response, and then they pick a voice, and it generates that response. Then it saves it with the creation, or it generates it at runtime, that sort of thing. I really want to get into like players easily just creating these like really complex cutscenes
Right.
of like, yeah.
So I'm curious. Like, I get the sense that you're the type of person who enjoys like solving complex problems and enjoys like making the things happen. So I can understand at that level why it's interesting to you to enable players to do these things. But um, are there other motivations? Like, what are the reasons you wanted to like make this project expand in this way, where other people could start making advanced programming or advanced scripting sequences and more complex games? Like, why?
Right. Well, I think like really what it is that I just really enjoyed building the thing. Like I think that happens to a lot of programmers, is that after a while, like game programming specifically, is that you kind of get sick of making gameplay and then you move on to tools. That's kind of what happened to me. Is I just really enjoy like making the scripting language of Modbox was the most enjoyable process I had in any like game or anything. So really, the reason I'm making Modbox is just for my own enjoyment of like I like to make Modbox. Uh, so yeah, that's really kind of it. And then once like, and it also just kind of uses all the strengths I feel like that our studio is good at, like action games, and then online networking and networking physics and all the things that I think we can do really well. And that's kind of why we're making Modbox.
Right. There's other. I mean, in the world of computing, there is this idea that everybody is standing on somebody else's shoulders, right? Like you use Unity to make Modbox, and Unity is using particular render engines, and then on top of that, there's the OS, and then below that there's the actual microprocessor architecture. And
Right.
on top of that, there's like the guy who figured out Boolean for the first time or whatever, wherever you want to get down to the base of it.
Was his name Boolean? Is that actually that guy?
Mr. Boolean, yes.
Yes. I think that actually is correct. I'm not sure.
I don't know either. But that's the thing, right? So like in this process of like constantly building ladder rungs for each other, right? I mean, it's actually a fairly non-reciprocal process. I mean, you may get satisfaction out of the players building levels for you, but it's not like and you may enjoy playing them, but they're not going to actually like push you any higher than you've pushed them, so to speak. Where does this end?
I don't really know. I mean, like, I love for someone to make someone to make something in Modbox that like the best thing would be someone makes something in Modbox, then it gets so successful that they then make it like they separate it as their own platform and they make their own thing. Like, you know, if Dota sort of thing was made in Modbox, that would
Right.
make me incredibly happy. And like they wouldn't stay in Modbox after that. You know, like if something was really successful, then they would sort of branch off on their own thing. And I hope that, you know, Modbox was the easiest way to prototype it, was the easiest way to make it, but maybe after that they can separate it. But yeah, I think like that's just the way that, like, I hope that Modbox is like a higher level of abstraction over Unity, and because of that, gives you tools that you wouldn't have been able to do and things you can be able to do as easily. And so because of that, I hope people can discover new, you know, gameplay and VR games and that sort of thing.
Interesting. So I mean, the greatest accomplishment is somebody makes some sort of advanced game creation tool within side Modbox that then is a greater level of abstraction. Is that is
yeah, maybe. I mean, like that would be yeah, I don't know. I mean, one thing we're trying to do with Modbox is keep things very open. So like all the development is all of our commits are public, and we're trying to be very public now that we're sort of releasing. We're going to be very public with builds, and we're going to be mostly like open source in the sense that like the source will be out there for people to check out and like build on. Not like open source in the sense that you can just take it and do whatever the hell you want, but like, you know, you can build off of it. And then yeah, I like I don't know. Looking forward to see what people make, I guess.
right? So but one of the things on this like constantly growing ladder of like shoulders we're standing on, to carry on with the analogy,
Right.
is that we very seldom understand how the rung below is made or how it operates, right?
That
Like,
kind of causes a lot of issues when people just like, you know, make something and use JavaScript, not caring that like how many layers go into that. You just you throw a cron process in your program to just do some small thing when it's like, how much shit is that doing under there, sort of thing.
right. Do you see that as a problem with the way that technology and software has evolved, or is it a non-issue and that it's always just going to continue through these like cascaded realities of abstraction?
I think it is a problem when you like. There's a lot of developers that use things and they just treat them like a black box. Like, you know, when I was looking at what kind of scripting language to use, we thought about incorporating JavaScript into the game and using that as like a way. But I think I was just kind of hiding the complexity in a sense, you know, like, oh yeah, we'll just throw JavaScript at it. You can do whatever you want in JavaScript, and there's this, and then I'm adding in this giant black box of stuff I don't know what's going on, just to like, you know, that just to get the output from it without caring, you know, how many processes, like to have a whole like Chromium process happening in my application. I don't know. Like at the same time, it just like, it kind of doesn't matter. Like I think that I'm not really like I've heard Jonathan Blow talk about that type of stuff a lot, where it's like people don't care about performance and like, you know. But I kind of think that you know, the rise of Unity and the rise of these simple game engine tools has meant that there doesn't need to be as many engine programmers, and that's good because there now can be more people working on user interfaces, or like, because not everyone has to sort of program their own rendering code. We can now have more people that are just entirely doing the best VR interfaces and figuring out stuff like that, like a higher level.
Right. So I mean, it's I mean, when we use the word better here, like, it is that an objective word? Like, is it truly better that we have fewer people, you know, on those problems? Because it's like, you know, at some level, like the root is of computing is no longer advancing. We're all relying on, you know, what Windows or whatever OS we're operating from, right?
Did you see that thing recently with I forget what it was, a programming language, Cabal, was it? Where it's like they needed there's some state in the U.S. that need to search for Cabal programmers because no one existed that could do this, could tap into this giant mainframe where they still use this old ancient programming language
Right.
as like a fundamental thing to run government. So that is a problem that like when stuff breaks, not a lot of people know what's going on under the hood because there's just not as many programmers working under the hood at that low level like that.
Right. It's like when there's like a security breach in like Intel's, the actual at the processor level. You have a security breach, and then it's like how many people are actually capable of solving these kinds of things, and it's like a huge issue.
Yeah. But like with Modbox, if I introduce more people to like help introduce more people to programming, like with like actual like code programming. A lot of people call their things like no code sort of things, and Modbox definitely has code. It just doesn't have like text code. But I'd be very like I think that'd be great to have more people being able to do things that are very close to programming, that aren't scared away from syntax errors and everything, and they wouldn't want to deal with under the hood stuff. They just want their ideas to work. Like whatever they're thinking of, they want it to like be presented. So I think there's just different types of people that want to want to develop the engine, and other people just want to make whatever product they want to make and not deal with that.
Right. So like we in the Vagabond Dog community, we've been like working on some community game jams and like dragging people kicking and screaming into the world of development to make things. And the resistance to code is very strong. But I'm curious from your perspective, like how much of a fundamental skill do you consider it in the modern age, given that we have so many no code tools and things like Modbox that make it easier?
I really hope that a lot of people's problem with code is things like syntax errors and dealing with like in hard debugging. Like it's hard for me to understand. Like it has been hard for me to understand the problems that people have with code, even though I'm trying to make something that someone like a non-programmer could use. But I hope that it is that they have trouble with syntax errors and a hard time understanding what's going on under the hood. So I just need to make that syntax errors not happen, and then to make it very transparent what's happening under the hood. And I hope because of that, people won't have a problem with code. Like I don't really want to market Modbox as like a no code platform, because I want you to be able to learn to code in it.
Right.
It's just like a no code platform in the sense that you don't have to learn C# or no JavaScript or that sort of thing.
Right. But where does that desire come from to want people to learn how to code? Is it just the benefit that it's brought your life, or is there something else to consider?
Yeah, I think like I love programming, and it is very enjoyable to solve problems and to make things work how you want. And so yeah, and I think I haven't really played. I'm not really that much of a gamer compared to most game developers. Like I don't really play that many games. I sort of check out a lot of games and check out their mechanics and move on. But I enjoy problem solving and working on actual I enjoy making games way more than I enjoy playing them. So I want Modbox, the enjoyment of it, to be that sort of same thing, where you're like making the product, you're solving problems, that sort of thing. And I from what I could see from our Discord, from non-programmers, from like all the Modbox testers we've had over the last 2 years are all not programmers and all no game dev experience. It does sort of work. They do. There is stepping stones that happen of like before you get deep into the code, you just use this wiring tool to like connect things together, and that actually it generates the code that you can then dive into after that. So it's like you're just connecting one thing together, and you say, when this switch turns on, open this door. And then if you want to get it way more advanced, you can then go into the actual visual scripting code that goes into that logic. You can make a script out of it. You can then attach it to different things, and then I hope that you can get more and more advanced and dive in more into more complexity as you go on, sort of thing. Yeah.
It's interesting to hear that you don't play a lot of games. I presume you have a love of games, no matter what.
I do have a love of games.
You do have a love of games. Like a lot of developers I have on the show, talk about it almost as if the game is an obsession. And I'm curious what got you into making games rather than more utilitarian pieces of software that could have significantly more complex problems to solve.
Right. I think I would.
If
I
solving
might.
problems is what you're into.
Yeah, I think like I'd be at this stage I would be fine with making just technology rather than games. I think. So that's part of the reason why I'm working on Modbox more than other game projects is I like the actual like uh, sort of solving these tech problems rather than gameplay problems and like because we did that when we were working on stuff like that for uh, I worked on a lot of different games for the last like 15 years or whatever. And when you're trying to release a game and just get it out, all you care about is just getting it out. Like you don't care about like the code quality. You don't care if it's like, can we use this engine for something else? That's all bad to think about. You need to get the game just out. Like anyone who, and then if you spend time on the engine or worry about, trying to make it reusable, you'll just never finish the game and it won't be a fun game. So like the best strategy is usually just to focus on any hacky approaches when you're near the end of development to get the game out and to make it as fun as possible. And it was very fun to sort of try to find great game mechanics and make these and games like that. But I really wanted to do something where I'm building a thing that will then be built on. So like a foundation that I'll build the next piece on, and I'll keep doing that, and other people will build on the foundation. That's what I want to work on now. So that's kind of why I'm kind of working on Modbox more than new other game mechanics, I guess.
Right. Do you think you continue like whether Modbox is a success or not? Do you want to move away from games and into more complex problems?
I don't know, but I'll probably just work on Modbox regardless if it's a success. Like if no one buys it, I'm still gonna be working on it.
Right.
But yeah, I think what'll happen, it'll just like go in waves of like, I'm sure a year from now I'll want to take a break and just work on one of our other game projects is just like a pure gameplay programmer. But it's just like you get sick of whatever you're doing, I guess.
Right. So I mean, we haven't talked actually a lot about the other games you've made. There's Apotheon, and I've played Gunhead, and I've played. I don't think I did Capsize, but like tell us about your previous games, your more traditional games, and like what that process was like compared to what you've been doing with Modbox.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of like what I said, where like you're trying to discover mechanics as quick as possible, and then you're like meshing into a product, and then you get then you make as many hacky approaches to make the thing work before release. And really, the most important thing is just trying to make it fun. So like, the Cryptarch code base, or like Apotheon code base, I had to dive in recently to see how it did some networking thing, and it was a giant mess. Like things did not make any sense because I didn't know what the game was, what I needed to do till like the end of development. And so at that point, you're not rewriting systems; you're just like forcing things to kind of work as good as possible. Yeah, like Modbox, the code base for Modbox actually started from this game called Autocraft that we made, which was it was a building game, kind of like you place blocks on a vehicle, and it's a vehicle building game back in 2015. And at that time, there wasn't like 2,000 of them on Steam. There's only like 100. But and I worked on that for a while, and it was the first time that we were making like a building game, and it was going pretty good. But then I think like we announced it, and then we were about to release it on Steam, or we had just released it on Steam, and I saw a GIF of Besieged for the first time, which is like it's like Besieged was like Autocraft but done 1,000 times better, and and then I pretty much just gave up on that project entirely after that.
Simply due to like feeling outclassed, or was it a commercial like death sentence, or what was the reason?
It was like everything we were doing, there was something that was 1,000 times better than what we were working on. So like Autocraft just did not compare to Besieged, and I could tell that instantly. That like when that came out, that it was just like, well, that's exactly how to do it. Like they took all the problems. The great thing about Besiege was it took all the problems with physics engines and it made it part of the gameplay. Like all these, we were trying to make these advanced creations in Modbox and make it like, a vehicle builder. But Besiege was like, oh, the jankiness is fine because it's a medieval game and like, it had fun with it. So, yeah. that was a project that we just kind of realized how we went the completely wrong direction.
So what was that? What was that process of transition like? Like, how did you just like give up the project and then immediately know to switch to Modbox, or like how did you transition like mentally from one to the other?
Well, we released AutoCraft like because we were pretty much done when Vistige was released, and Modbox kind of started on the AutoCraft code base just because like it was a building game, and like after I tried Tilt Brush and I realized how amazing Tilt Brush was, I just wanted to take that interface and try it with AutoCraft, and that's pretty much what became Modbox.
Right. Yeah, those early VR experiences. I mean, I still think we are in the relative to where the technology is the trajectory of the technology. We are still in the early phase, but those early VR experiences
that was very, very good. Like
very mind blowing. Like,
yeah.
What so was it really just after the first Tilt Brush demo you're like I need to make VR stuff, or
it was at Steam Dev Days. I can't remember which year. Whatever year they first announced they were working on VR Valve. They had this VR room where they had all these QR code like things on the walls. So you walk into this room, there's QR code type things over the walls, and you put on this headset that's just like two Samsung Galaxy phones screens on this headset that they just makeshift.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have any controllers at that time, but it was like the first VR room scale thing to try, and it was mind blowing. Like, yeah. So I think after that, I got a hold of Valve, and I was just like, whatever you're doing, I want to make something with VR. And they didn't talk to me until a while after that, and then I can't remember what happened. I think after I tried Tilt Brush, I then sent another giant email, and they finally gave in and sent me a Vive.
Right. And how do you think that from those days to now, I mean, obviously the hardware has gotten lighter, less expensive and all that, but how do you think that the design culture around VR has shifted in the, I guess, 5 years now almost, right?
Yeah, I mean 2016.
Yeah, almost 5 years, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I kind of just wish there was more things being tried. Like, there's not as many. Like, the great thing about what Valve did when that happened was they just sent out a bunch of VR kits, and then developers made stuff with it. And so, like, I don't see why there's not anyone doing that with augmented reality right now. For example, like I feel like everyone's trying to make the Quest, like the Oculus Quest, for augmented reality before they make like the DK1. If you remember the DK1 for Oculus,
Yep.
You know, and then like the Magic Leap is a really fantastic product, but it's like it's as if they were trying to make the Quest when in DK1 days. When what we should be doing is there should be an AR kit the AR glasses that just uses Steam VR, that uses the already figured out tracking, that are just for like a very small audience of people who are willing to buy like $1,000 thing that they hook up directly to the GPU, and I think I can make fantastic AR games for that. But there's no one doing something like that because they view AR as only something that matters for like once it's glasses you can keep on your face and don't look ridiculous sort of thing. I don't think people see the potential in augmented reality that it just augmented reality gaming at home sort of thing.
I mean, this is I won't fault you for not seeing it, but did you see the Nintendo Direct that released today?
Oh yeah, I did. I saw that seems like one of the best cases of AR to exist.
Yeah, that kind of really surprised me. I mean, it makes perfect sense and a good use of the technology, but I'm curious about your thoughts on it. Given that we're
I only saw a tweet video of the car driving, like the car AR.
Yeah. The car's got a camera on it. Camera feeds back to your Switch, I think, and then you play Mario Kart, and the car is a RC car that drives, and then you have like goalposts that have like I guess a graphic on it that it can read to like know if it's passing through.
I mean that looks fun. Like there's a lot of AR videos online that are like, wow, that looks really cool, but if you tried it, it's not that fun. Like you're not coming back to it like Beat Saber or a Nintendo game. So I do think that could happen with AR. It just people are not really doing it. So that Nintendo game actually looks fun. I want to drive a car around like that and go through virtual uh, goals and such.
What? Why do you think there isn't a version to AR whereas VR seems to have been, I mean, not majority adopted by the development community, but like significantly adopted. Whereas AR, I see when I see AR developments, it's usually at things like Google I/O, and it's very like we can make a 3D model appear in your living room, and that's like the extent of it. Whereas there is a lot of room for it to like do things, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like you can put a thing on a plane and walk around with your phone, and I mean, even as it gets better, it's just there's never been anything that's actually fun in that way. But I don't see any reason why that there can't be. Like, but just I think the main thing is input. Like, if we had a AR device that just used Steam VR tracking or just precise tracking, you could make actual fun games because you could have actual fun physics. Like, if we were standing beside each other and we had AR glasses on, we could just have a game of zero gravity ping pong. And I've tried that with AR stuff, and it's very fun. But when I tried that, I had to like makeshift that on a Vive and put this path through camera, and it had latency and all this shit, and it was terrible because like just because of the latency. But the actual
Right.
game of like zero G ping pong between two people where you're in the same shared space is amazing. But no one's doing that because it's just there's no hardware to actually do that. There's no like big companies. The only big companies in augmented reality are all doing the everything in one computer on your head, like Microsoft HoloLens and Magic Leap. No one's doing like the hook into the desktop and a Kickstarter that you can just try some crazy AR stuff with. Yeah,
I mean,
so I think it could happen. It's just no one's doing it.
I mean, not to be too combative, but like, how much more fun is AR ping pong versus VR ping pong versus actual ping pong?
Well, actual
Like,
ping pong is hard to like. You can't do actual zero G ping pong. So there you go. So
right,
that's
we
not.
can't do a zero G ping pong, and also we like can't like do game design tricks to cheat for the player and like make it easier to
Right.
play. Right, we need the actual physical skill. But like,
Right.
okay, then
But
VR
like
VR versus
VR
AR. Why
versus
is one more fun than the
augmented
other?
reality, I don't think AR gaming would be as big as VR gaming. That's definitely not near term sort of thing. But like, there's something about being in that same shared space with the person. You can actually see them. Like that's the thing that really excites me. It's like, and I don't really like having a VR headset on all the time. I don't like leaving reality. I like reality. I want to stay in reality, and I just want to play games on top of it. I don't like being blinded and in a blurry display. I just want to enjoy like physics. And I want to mess around, and then um, yeah, in augmented reality. And I think that's a lot of the reasons why you see, uh, not the best player bases when it comes to VR, because people don't want to leave reality and like put on this headset and be blinded and have someone rob their house while they're in, VR. Uh, like, so yeah, I think there's definitely it's not like one or the other. It's not like one is going to be a lot better. And there's a lot of games that like rely on that sort of complete immersion. Like you wouldn't make a sci-fi story-based adventure or Half-Life Alyx in augmented reality. That doesn't
Right.
make sense. But I think you could make really fun games that no one tried, like physics-based games, things that use the environment that no one's really tried.
Right. Um, but okay, so then if there is this potential in the AR landscape, why are so few people approaching it?
But you need to make an augmented reality headset. You need to be a giant company. Like you can't, you know, it needs to be one of the big five companies that does it. Like it just can't happen from a small company. It's extremely hard for even billions of dollars to go into a venture-backed startup and for them to make something like that. So I just don't think one of the like I can see some like Valve going into it, and I could see them trying something and doing like something experimental, but it just takes a giant amount of capital and giant effort, and none of the big companies are doing it. I think it's because they're all fixated on the idea of augmented reality being this thing that you wear as fashion. Like whatever Apple's going to do, Apple's not going to send out early AR headsets to like try some weird stuff at home. They're only going to launch it when it's fashionable, probably. And so because of that reason, it's just not happening.
But I mean, like the tech is all like commercially available right now. Like, is there a key tech component that we don't have access to? I mean, our phones are capable of that level of processing and stuff. And sure, we don't have like the controllers, but
yeah, the phones are definitely not like when augmented reality displays are still really not that good. Like they still have like a lot of trade-offs in terms of like field of view and whatever kind of display you use, whether it's waveguides or all the other crap. It just always has trade-offs and problems. But like because they have to do all the processing on the headset, they can't do stuff like say figure out occlusion that much. Like I guess the iPad's pretty good with that, but like yeah, it's not. If they could hook it into a GPU on the computer and just give it to people to just do whatever they want with it, like the hobbyists, if I could make my own occlusion, if you just give me what the cameras see and I could make my own occlusion, then I would make me very happy. But there's nothing out there like that. Like I haven't tried iPad AR stuff, but I don't think they give you access to everything. Like I don't think they give you the actual LiDAR data to sort of do your own processing. So I really want a company to go that route with augmented reality, just like the hobbyist sort of thing.
Right. I mean, obviously we've seen the Black Mirror episode or whatever where AR becomes a runaway part of our everyday lives, like, and we're fed advertisements and everything. There's a huge not to talk about the downside of it, but that is a huge pot of gold at the end of the road for whatever company does take this step. So I'm curious then why you think there are no big companies taking this step. Like, why isn't Amazon funding this when I'm sure they would love nothing more than to project Amazon items onto your reality like 24/7?
I really think it's because they're fixated on the end goal rather than trying to make something just work now. Like the end goal of like, there's a lot more startups that are working on augmented reality glasses that are fashionable. There are working on augmented reality glasses that are functional, that are actually like specifically there's nothing with input. Like I just want controllers in my or good enough hand tracking, but that's not happening soon either. But like precise control, like if you give me an augmented reality platform that I could create Beat Saber on, I think that would be fantastic. Because like Beat Saber doesn't need to be in VR. I don't need to have complete immersion to play that. I just need to have incredibly precise input, which I can't do right now.
I don't know if I want to see the people watching me play Beat Saber. I think having those blinders on might be a little bit of a help.
Yeah, you really feel like you're badass without knowing.
Without knowing nobody's without seeing the people watching you. Yeah, I mean,
and visual expressions as you flail your arms around.
I mean, that actually, you know what? Like, we're joking, but like, compare the barrier to entry for Beat Saber versus like Dance Dance Revolution, right? Like, when you play Dance Dance Revolution, like, you're going on stage literally to be viewed and judged. And even though you are literally doing the same types of motions, and I'm talking in the arcade setting, the same level of visibility, with Beat Saber, I find that people don't have that that stage fright, that anxiety doesn't come into play because you are, you don't see the people watching aghast.
Well, what if they could see you playing Beat Saber, but also see the actual things that you're doing? Do you know what I mean?
So everybody's in AR.
Well, yeah. I mean, that is definitely something you could do. Like, everyone else would have glasses or even just their phone, and they could see you doing it. Don't you think you would look very badass playing Beat Saber, and everyone can actually see the things coming at you and you hitting them? Like, I think it'd be pretty good.
Maybe. I mean,
maybe not.
If I was shooting the boxes at them, then maybe.
Right.
It's an interesting world. But like, so is this is the route that like excites you the most? I mean, I get there's a lot of like interesting technical problems to solve in the world of AR. Um, do you really like? It's I still have a hard time imagining, because I mean, obviously, if I had the great idea for a great AR game, I'd be working on it. But like, I still have a very hard time imagining games that are fundamentally different, in AR. And I think that's what we need to hit that stride.
Right. I mean, like, I think doing anything shared space with other people would be fundamentally different. Like, where I could see the person and their reactions, and we could interact with the same virtual stuff. Like, you can do that in VR, but it's a completely different thing when you can actually, see their face. Like, it's not like this weird avatar, but you're actually
Right.
still in the real world. And there's something else that like about using the environment too, like playing physics games and having a like when I was doing experiments with Modbox in augmented reality, just having a drone battle in my living room was fantastic. Like running around my door and then shooting a bow and arrow at this drone in the kitchen, and it's ridiculously fun to like use that environment that way. Like that's the thing about augmented reality, is that it should be based on the environment around you, rather than just like displaying something on a plane and a table, which is
Right.
mostly augmented reality now. Like, oh, I can play like a tank game with other people, and we're both having our screens up, and like, there's nothing about that is, unique. Uh, but yeah.
Interesting. Um, yeah, man. Uh, so you have had a lot of fun experiences with the AR stuff that I think a lot of people haven't even come close to experiences, because 95% of the AR things that I've done is like Pokemon Go, which is barely an AR experience.
Did I ever show you the thing in my house, like the setup I had, pass-through setup, all that stuff?
The pastor stuff. I mean, you brought it to my house.
Oh, that was the Magic Leap.
Is that different?
Yeah. So the thing
Okay.
I had, I had an HTC Vive, and then I put a camera in front of it, like and then it was pass through camera,
Right.
so it like felt like augmented reality, and it was really fun to use it and like try augmented reality stuff. But it also had like a latency of I think like 40 milliseconds or something like that, which is just unbearable. Sort of, it
Right.
gets you like instant nausea sort of thing. Uh, so yeah.
Yeah, I've been in VR when the frame rate gets to nothing, and
Yeah,
oh
it's much
boy.
worse than that actually. It's like because it almost feels real, because like you can see your environment, but there's a latency to any movement, and
Right.
it's terrible.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good talk about AR, but what is left on the plate before release, which we have avoided saying the date, I've noticed.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think I got 5 days left or something, but I don't know. I don't like. I kind of think Modbox's release is something I got to get over with, rather than it's not like a celebratory end of development.
Right.
It's more like a thing I got to just do, because like it's not that the game is done by any means. It's more that the editor tools are at a place where I won't break stuff. So now it's time to release. Like I'm happy. I'm satisfied with the scripting language enough that I'm not going to change things. Therefore, people can start making stuff in them, and that's what release is. Like there's a lot of fun stuff to do in there right now, but I do think release is kind of like, well, we can start having players interact with it again. It's not like it's done at all. So like I think we're going to release, and it's still going to be me working on things in the same way for a long time going forward. So just like I think I'm just going to focus on. I actually 2 days ago I started working on this new system for it, and I wrote down all these things I was going to do, and I made all these changes to the code base and everything. Spent about 2 hours doing that, and then I thought, what the fuck am I doing, making this giant change right like
Right.
a week before release? And then I reverted all that and got rid of it all, and then went back to bug fixing. So I'm still just bug fixing and polishing things for another 5 days.
Right. And how do you feel about walking into the Steam ecosystem? I mean, I know it's been in an early access and it's had a presence on Steam for a while now, but what changes when you leave the early access?
Well, it's not leaving early access. I don't know when we're going to leave early access,
Never.
but yeah, never. I think we might leave early access when we make a free version, like when we release the version that you can just play, and you have to. It would be that you can play any creation for free, so you can if you make a sweet creation, you want to be able to share that with your friends. You don't want them to have to buy the game. But then if you want to go into the editor tools, then you have to pay for some DLC or something. That's kind of the plan. I think at that point we'll get out of early access. But yeah, what was your question again?
That pretty much answered it.
All right.
It's been a pleasure having you on, Lee. I'm very excited for your launch. I want to wish you all the best luck, and
congrats on the Karen launch.
Hey, Karen game's pretty good. We didn't try very hard, and we kind of got a bit lucky with the meme. So
right. Good timing, I guess.
Timing, yeah. I'll everybody, if you whether you're VR or not, or you're interested in creating stuff, I definitely recommend you check out Modbox. It's going to be a wild project. I'm very curious to see the things that come out of it. All right. I think we're going to head off now. I'm not going to be around tomorrow or this weekend for traditional development streams, but we might get some good old cabin streams for good fun. I'm going to pass a raid off now, and that'll be it for the show. Thank you again, Lee, for coming on.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. All right, let's go, gang. I think they're playing Karen right now, so have fun, everybody.